Sponsored by Rabbi Shlomi and Mirala Greenwald. This is a Sicha from Likutei Sichos, Chelek Alef, Parshas Yisro, Sicha Alef. And the topic of the Sicha is that we learn in this week's Parsha about how Yisro joined the Yidden, and Razal tell us about the significance of this event of Yisro joining the Yidden after Yetzias Mitzrayim and before Matan Torah. And in the Sicha, the Rebbe will explain why this event was so significant. And in the process, the Rebbe will also present and explain 3 different teachings related to Yisro joining the Yidden. In connection to what's written in our Parsha, Vayemer Yisro, Baruch Hashem, Asher Hitzel Eschem, so Razal teach us, it's a Gemara in Sanhedrin and also in Mechilta, Gnai Hula Moshe V'Shishim Ribui. It's a Gnai to Moshe and the 600,000 Yidden, Shaloi Amru Baruch, that they did not say Baruch, Ad Sheba Yisro V'Amar Baruch Hashem, until Yisro came and said Baruch Hashem. And the question is, what does it mean, Shaloi Amru Baruch, that they didn't say Baruch? We know that they said Shira after the miracle of Kriyas Yamsuf. And you can't say that the Gnai is that they didn't say it on Yetzias Mitzrayim and that they only said it on Kriyas Yamsuf, because then Ha'ikr Chasam in a Sefer. The main thing is missing from the teaching. It should have said the Gnai is not that they didn't say Baruch, but rather that they didn't say Baruch on Yetzias Mitzrayim, and that's not what's written. It just says Gnai Hu L'Moshe V'Shishim Ribui Shaloi Amru Baruch, period. And so, what does that mean if we know that the Yidden just then, before this event, they said Shira on the miracle of Kriyas Yamsuf? So we'll understand this by first presenting a teaching from the Zohar. The Zohar says that until Yisro came and praised Hashem, the Torah wasn't given to the Yidden. And after Yisro came and he said, Baruch Hashem asher hitzel eschem v'gemer, Ate edaiti ki godel Hashem mikol elokim v'gemer. So he caused that istalik kutra brichu bikare ilav esato ulabasar yoyev ayraisa bishlimu. Through this, Yisro brought about that Hashem gave the Torah. And the question over here is, how can it be that the greatness of Moshe and Aaron and all of the Yidden wasn't enough for the Torah to be given, and it's only after Yisro came and said, Ki Gadol Hashem Mikol Elokim, that then Hashem was able to give the Torah? So we'll understand this second teaching, which through it we'll understand the first teaching based on a question about what's written in the beginning of our Parsha. The beginning of the Parsha starts off and says, Vayishma Yisro Kohen Midyan Chaysen Moshe. Yisro Kohen Midyan, the father-in-law of Moshe, heard Eis Kol Asher Asa Lakim, everything that Hashem performed and did for Moshe and for the Yidden. And the question over here is, what is the pasuk teaching us by mentioning that he was a Kohen Midyan? Why does the pasuk add that he was a Kohen Midyan? It could have just said Vayishma Yisro Chaysen Moshe. And this is a question both if the words Kohen Midyan mean that he was Sarah Shel Midyan, a minister, he had a high position, a high ranking in Midyan, and it's especially a question if it means that he was a Kohen to Avodah Zarah, because then it comes out that the Torah is telling us something bad about Yisro, that he was a Kohen by Avodah Zarah, and it doesn't make sense that the Torah should want to do that, especially over here where we're talking about the good in Yisro, that he came and joined the Yidden. So why would the Torah now tell us something bad about him, that he was a Kohen to Avodah Zarah? The answer to this is that the pasuk is not telling us that Yisro was Kohen Midyan in order to diminish his greatness, but to the contrary, the pasuk is coming to describe his high position in the past as Sarah Shel Midyan in order to emphasize his greatness to be misgayer, to the extent that, as Rashi tells us, Nedavei libay lotzei sala midbar mekayim toyu lishmoya divrei Torah. So it's bringing out his greatness, that despite his high position, he went to be misgayer to the extent that he went out to the midbar. And also according to the second explanation, that Kohen Midyan means that he was a Kohen to Avodah Zarah, it's also telling us his greatness in Yediyah and Asaga, As we know that the Rambam tells us that the main mistake of those who served Avodah Zarah was a mistake in their thinking, that they thought that since Hashem created the Kechavim Mazalis to run the world, and as Chazal tell us, Ein Lucha Esev Lamata She'en Le Mazal Milmailo Hamakabei V'Emer Le Gadel. So since Hashem created the Kechavim Mazalis to run the world, so they thought that Hashem wants us to serve them. They should be served. However, that's a mistake, as we know that the Kechavim Mazalis don't have any bchira, they don't have any free choice, and they're just kegars and biyad ha'chetzav. They're just like a tool in the hands of Hashem. And just like there are Memutzayim in this world, the Kechavim Mazalis, there are also Memutzayim in the worlds of Yitzira and Bria. There are also a Memutzayim between Hashem and our world. Like it says, Ki Gavaya Mal Gavaya Shemer, V'Gavaya Aleim. There are many different levels between Hashem and us, and all of them are Memutzayim. And there too, it's the same warning that a person has to know that they're just kegars and biyad ha'chetzav. And over there, the warning is actually greater, because since they are very great spiritual entities and worlds, so it's easier for a person to make a mistake and give them importance. And when it says about Yisro that he was a kohen for Avodah Zarah, and we also know it says about him that he was makir b'chol Avodah Zarah sheba'olam, what it means to say is that he also had a knowledge in all the higher worlds. It's just that he made a mistake and he thought that they had to be served. So this is all bringing out the greatness of Yisro. That is, Yedi and Asago was on such a high level, he knew about all the Memutzayim. He had a very deep understanding of all the higher worlds. And the Torah is telling us that we have such a great person over here with such a high position in Midyan. And a person, because he had both of these qualities, both he had a high position in Midyan, and he was a person of tremendous Yedi and Asaga, and despite that, he came to be misgayer to the extent that he went out to the Midbar. Based on this explanation, that Yisro was on a very high level in his Yedi and Asaga, we can now understand what the Zohar says, that it was through his Haidah, through his acknowledgement, Ki Gadol Havai Mikol Elokim, that the Torah was given. Because the Zohar teaches on the pasuk of Re'isi Ani Sheyesh Yisron LaChochma Min HaSichlus, the Zohar teaches that the Yisron of Chochma de Kedusha, it comes specifically from the Sichlus, which means from Chochma Dulumazeh. It comes about through the bearer of Chochma Dulumazeh. That's how there's a Yisron in the Chochma of Kedusha. So through Yisro, who is a great Chacham in Chochma Dulumazeh, coming to learn Torah. And he also said, Ki Gadol Havaya Mikol Elokim. So this made a birur in Chochma Dulumazeh, where he came from, and through that he came to Chochma of Kedusha. So it made a birur in Chochma Dulumazeh, that it turned into Chochma de Kedusha, and this added a Yisro and in Chochma de Kedusha, as the Zohar says. And since his acknowledgement, Ki Gadol Havaya Mikol Elokim, drew down a Yisro and in Chochma de Kedusha, therefore it brought about the giving of the Torah, brought about Matan Torah, which Matan Torah needs Shacha from a very high place. So that's why it's the Haidah of Yisro that was needed in order for there to be Matan Torah. However, there's a side question over here, which the Rebbe explains, and that is, we know that the preparation to something has to be related to what it's preparing towards. It's not just two unrelated things. One thing is done, another thing happens, but they have to be connected to one another. So the question is, what's the connection between the birur of Chochma Dulumazeh and Matan Torah? How are they connected to one another? All we explained is that through the Chochma of Dulumazeh, through the birur of the Chochma Dulumazeh, it adds a Yisro and in Chochma of Kedusha, but what does that have to do with Matan Torah? And the answer is that it's explained in many places that before Matan Torah, Hashem decreed, Hashamayim Shamayim La Hashem, Va'aretz Nasan L'vnei Adam. Hashem decreed that there should be a separation between Elyonim and Tachtenim. And when Hashem wanted to give the Torah, He removed the decree between Elyonim and Tachtenim. Like it says, Batal Gzeir Rishona Va'omar HaTachtenim Yalu L'Elyonim V'Elyonim Yerdu L'Tachtenim. Meaning that by Matan Torah, it came about the connection between the Maila and the Mata, and the elevation of the Mata to be part of the Maila. And the birur of Chochma Dulumazeh and its elevation to Chochma de Kedusha is similar to this. And that's why this was a hachana, a preparation for Matan Torah. This acknowledgement of Yisro, Ki Gadol Havai Mikol Elokim, which was an idea of being mevar the Chochma Dulumazeh and elevating it into Chochma de Kedusha, is a preparation for Matan Torah, which is also the idea of connecting b'mechaber alyenim and tachtenim. Related to this, we can say that this preparation to Matan Torah has an advantage also over the preparation that happened by Kriyas Yamsuf. As we know, also by Kriyas Yamsuf, there was a chibur, a connection between Maila and Mata, which that is the connection of Alma Diskasya and Alma Disgalya, because the water represents Alma Diskasya, and the land represents Alma Disgalya. And by Kriyas Yamsuf, it says Hafach Yom Liabasha, that there was a connection between Alma Diskasya and Alma Disgalya, but still it wasn't enough. And it was needed to have the preparation of Yisro coming and saying, Ki Gadol Avaya Mikol Elokim. And this is because by Kriyas Yamsuf it only connected the higher levels and lower levels in Kedusha itself. But it didn't connect it to Lu'umazeh. By Lu'umazeh, it only broke it. Like we see that the Mitzrim drowned. So it broke the Lu'umazeh. But it wasn't a birr, it didn't elevate, it didn't connect to the Lumazeh. And this explains to us another question. How is it that Amalek was able to later come and wage war on the Yidden? Even though we know that the nations heard about Kriyas Yamsuf, and it says that they also saw Kriyas Yamsuf, because Nifku Kol Amemus Sheba'elam, all the waters in the world split. And even more, it tells us that Shamu Amim Bir Gazun, Namoigu Kol Yesh V'chanan, everyone was terrified. So how did Amalek later come to wage war on the Yidden? And the explanation is because at the time it didn't elevate the Lu'umazeh. The Goyim weren't elevated, they were just temporarily broken. And once Kriyas Yamsuf passed, and since they still remained in their existence, then they were able to rise up and wage war with the Yidden. And so it was specifically through the admission, the acknowledgement of Yisro, Ki Gadol Avaya Mikol Elokim, which is a chibur of Elyon and Tachtin, even in the Umazeh, that it was able to be Matan Torah, because that was the true preparation to Matan Torah, where there was a chibur of the Elyon and Tachtin of Kedusha and the Umazeh. Based on this, we can now understand another teaching, and that is we can understand in Yenishal Torah, where Rashi says, it says, Vayishma Yisro, Rashi explains, Ma Shmu Hashama Abba, what did he hear that made him come? Kriyas Yamsuf u'Molchemes Amalek. And there are two questions over here. Number one, we know that Yisro heard and knew about all the great miracles of Yetzias Mitzrayim. So why didn't any of those inspire him to come? Why was it specifically these two things? And number two, why does it say Melchemes Amalek? It should either say Hatzalas Yisrael, the saving of the Yidden from Amalek, or Mapelas Amalek, the destruction of Amalek. Why does it say Melchemes Amalek? But based on what we said, we can now understand this. What happened here is that Yisro heard about Kriyas Yamsuf, which Kriyas Yamsuf is the idea that you could connect Al Yenim and Tachtenim. So he heard that connecting Al Yenim and Tachtenim is possible, and not only is it possible, it actually happened. There was Hafach Yom Liabasha. But he also heard that it didn't happen fully. It didn't happen fully. It only connected Al Yenim and Tachtenim in Kedusha, but not all the way down into Lu'umazeh. So once Yisro knew these two things, that Al Yenim and Tachtenim could be connected, and that they weren't yet fully connected, so then this caused Yisro to come so that he can make that full connection between Al Yenim and Tachtenim and bring about Matan Torah. This explanation in Yenishal Torah of Rashi answers another question. And that is, we know that the rule is Mailan B'Kodesh. We always go up in matters of Kedusha. And that's certainly how it was from Yetzias Mitzrayim to Matan Torah, which is the time from when the Yidden left Memtesh Sharet Tamah until they were ready to receive the Torah. And the question is, so how does Melchemes Amalek fit in during this time? But now we understand how it fits in, because Melchemes Amalek was the cause of the bir of Chachma Delumazeh through Yisro, which was the most important preparation for Matan Torah. So it ends up that it is part of the Mailan B'Kodesh. Through that, we had the most important preparation that was needed for Matan Torah. According to all of this, we can now understand what Razal say, that Gnai hu leMoshe v'shishim ribui shalei omru baruch atsheba Yisro v'omar Baruch Hashem. The Gnai was that they didn't say Baruch, which means to draw down. Baruch is Meloshan Amshacha, like it says, Amavriches Hagefen. And the meaning of Baruch Hashem Mikol Elokim is to draw down Hashem from the highest of the high into the lowest of the low. And that was only done through Yisro. The Yid didn't drew down Elikus into the world, but it didn't come all the way down into Lumazeh. That was only accomplished, that Baruch, Meloshan Amshacha, to make Amshacha from the highest place, down into the lowest of the low, even into the Lumazeh, that was only done by Yisro. The Hayrah from all of this and the Avodah of each and every person, we know that Matan Torah needs to be, and it is every single day. And like we say in the Nusach of the Bracha of Birchas HaTorah, Noisein HaTorah, Noisein Lashon Hove. And so what we learn from this is that the preparation for Matan Torah, it starts with Kriyas Yamsuf, which means a person doing in the area of Kedusha itself. Like we said, that Kriyas Yamsuf is the chibur, the connection of the Elyon and Tachten in Kedusha. And this is starting with Tefillah. The start that a person starts his day with davening, like it says, Shetehei Tefilasi Smucha Limitasi. And then it's followed by Limud Torah. Like we know, it's Mibeis HaKnesses Lebeis HaMedrash. And that gives a person the strength to then move on to Milchemes Amalek, which is the Avodah of Bechol Derechecha De'eyu, which is to be connected to Elikus even in areas of Rishus, that has to be brought down even into the Tachten, which is outside of Kedusha. And this is the preparation to the Gilui of Matan Torah, where we bring about that Anochi Havaya becomes a Lekecha, meaning Kechacha V'chayuscha. It becomes the very life of the person.